Greetings, new hammer, middle hammer, and old hammer folks alike. I am Old Grumpy Wolf, aka Lennon Midnight, and welcome to the Minibar Podcast. I'll be serving you up lots of awesome painting nerdiness, talking to other painters from around the web. And tonight at the bar, we have a very, very special guest with us. He is like the old hammer man himself, constantly promoting the Imperium propaganda through his Instagram and his YouTube. Say hello to Snakeworks Studio, aka Marcel. What's up, dude? It's great to have you on.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh yeah, it's morning for both of us.
Is it really early morning in there for you? Isn't it? At the moment?
Yeah, it's 1:35 in the morning right now.
Okay.
But just coming home from the gym, I've got that, kind of that gym high going. I normally take a weed gummy to make me sleepy to go to bed, but didn't take that tonight.
Yeah. You on the caffeine?
I've got a little bit of tea and I've got a Gatorade.
Okay. Do you take those pre-workout things that everyone talks about?
I've never heard of them.
No, I keep hearing about these pre-workouts that people take before they go to the gym, but I don't know what's in them. I feel they might be good for painting. I take a pre-workout before I go painting. It might speed me along a little.
You might want to take a look at what's in those things.
You though.
You don't need to be taking legal speed and sitting down and painting.
It might be productive.
So to roll into the show, the question I ask every guest who comes on is, what got you into Warhammer and painting miniatures?
Oh, okay. So that would have been, I think, when you were around 10-ish. I can't remember what age you are when you were at middle school, but I distinctly remember White Dwarf magazines being brought in. And we all had a little look at these White Dwarf magazines, and we're like, whatever this stuff is, looks pretty good. I want some of this. I think I made my way to the actual Games Workshop shop with a bit of money. And I thought, I'll have to see what I can find. And I remember looking around. I was with my cousin at the time, and he was disgusted with the prices. And this was back in what, 91? He said, "Oh, this is too expensive. This." I think it was, I don't know, just over £10 for a Space Marine tactical squad.
Yeah, I was about to say you could get like a 3-man blister pack for like £5.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, those are great prices, and I should have bought them all. But yeah, so what I did end up buying was Space Crusade. I think they had so many boxes of it all piled up. It was like on offer, on clearance.
Oh, yeah.
And I bought one of those for, I think it was like £15, and I thought, you got like 50 models in here.
Was that Space Crusade or Advanced Space Crusade?
No, normal Space Crusade.
Okay.
Yeah, and got that, messed around with that, and then realised it would have been better to just buy that Space Marine, because those Space Crusade models were a little bit basic. Is that the word we should use?
Yeah, let's
not quite what I wanted. You saw the stuff in the magazine, and they didn't match that.
Yeah.
They did, looking back, I actually quite like them again now, because they have that charm of being so basic. But I was a little bit disappointed. But we did get that old Dreadnought, which we haven't seen again, have we? The weird one, like the long head. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, you're talking about the old Chaos Dreadnought.
Yeah. I think they released a version for Epic, didn't they?
Yep, they did.
And then it vanished. I'm hoping one day it comes back in some...
It'd be actually kind of cool if they did that for $30K.
Yeah, that would be nice to see. But someone said, is it the Doredio, however you want to pronounce it? Someone said that is supposed to be like the original version. But I don't know if that's hearsay.
The funny thing is, do they have Dreadnoughts in 30K anymore, or like now?
Who, 30K? Do they have Dreadnoughts, did you say?
Yeah, I really haven't paid attention.
They have, yeah, there's loads in there.
Okay.
You've got your Contemptors, your Leviathans.
But anyway, back to you bought Space Crusade.
So, bought Space Crusade, messed around with that, and then I think the second edition was coming out. This was the sort of golden era, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
When it was still weird, you know, it was all up in the air. You had all strange things going on when they didn't really know where they wanted to take it. Just before the second edition sort of sorting out came in, because after second edition hit, you know, everyone was pigeonholed into their boxes. All the weirdness went away, in my opinion, anyway. And it was the weirdness that I liked.
Yeah,
you still had a bit of it, but by third edition that was gone. So I think me and my second edition, attempted to play, messed around on tables, had no idea what we were doing with those rules. You know, you're just making it up as best you can. Everyone's read the rules. Everyone reads it in a different way.
Yeah.
Everyone's arguing over what you're supposed to do. But we had fun. That was the important thing. But it was all about the painting and the models back then.
So like you got into you got into the second edition. Is that when you actually started painting, or did you start getting into that later on?
No. Second edition would have been when I say painting, sort of messing around with brushes might be closer to the mark. But we were actually using Citadel paints. I remember I've heard guys saying they've been using craft paints and things to start with.
Yeah.
But luckily, I had a friend, and he had sort of everything. He was the guy with the big tin full of the old paint. So we'd be going around his at the weekend, using all his paint. So I guess we had a good start there. He had all the paint sets. So had no idea about thinning paints and, you know, too thin coats and all those sorts of things. I remember trying to paint a Predator. I don't know, you remember the old Predator kit? With like a detail brush.
Oh, geez.
Just spending hours. You know, we had no idea. You could just get a big brush and slap it on and work your way up. But, you know, you're trying to paint each individual tiny little brush. Never got anywhere.
Takes you 2 days just to base coat it.
Yeah, I think I painted one of the las cannon sponsons in one weekend. But, yeah, I have no idea what happened to that tank.
I've still got mine. It's in I've got a box in my storage room behind me of like all my Warhammer stuff. Amazingly, it's just one box. But yeah, it was this old Predator that I painted up and did like a bunch of battle damage to, like melted the plastic and scraped it with a X-Acto
Everyone
knife.
did that, didn't they?
Yeah.
I had a friend who he would set a light to his rhinos and things, and he'd put firecrackers and things in them and blow them up. Everyone loved a bit of battle damage back then.
I had a rhino. I have no idea what happened to it. I painted up as my Predator's painted up as a Space Wolf chapter Predator, but the rhino was painted up as a Blood Angels.
Yeah.
I asked my best friend last night.
Have we seen it on Instagram?
What's that?
Have we seen your rhino on Instagram? Your
No.
Rhino?
I took some pictures of the Predator and sent it to a buddy of mine. It was the guy up in Canada, Warheezy up in Canada. I sent the pictures too, but I called my painting bestie that I grew up with. I was like, "Hey Howard, did I give you my old rhino?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay, I have no idea where it went then." I mean, it's kind of hard to misplace a rhino, and for me, I'm just like, the only place I can think of where it went was the original hobby store here in town. I used to go to on Saturday nights when I was a teenager. I ended up having like a handful of models stolen out of the display case.
Oh, really?
And I think the rhino went with it.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
We don't have much theft around here, luckily. I think from display cases, you get the odd army going missing.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I've not heard of theft. That's awful.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I was a teenager, and, you know, I'm 43 now, so I kind of don't care. If I want another one, I'll just buy it off eBay. But
there's plenty on there.
Oh, yeah. No, I see a lot of people buying, old rhinos and Predators and old models off eBay and actually doing like the whole restoration thing. And it's really neat to see that like so many people are going back to their childhood fantasies of owning these old models that, you know, they couldn't get at the time and actually doing something with them.
I think they come back to it with all the accumulated knowledge of over 20 years since then. And you can do it again, but properly how you wanted to do it when you were a youngster, how to.
Did you ever, like, throughout your involvement with 40K and Warhammer, did you ever take a break, like 5-10 years, and then come back to it, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I mid-teens, around then, I distinctly remember cleaning out my bedroom with a giant carrier bag, everything in, throwing it away to the landfill.
Now you're waste. Now you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah, it was RTB01s. All the Space Crusade went in that bin, like the second edition box set. Metal Gazgull, I know, went in that bin because we thought we were done. We thought that stuff was rubbish and no one wanted it anymore.
Well, it's like the RTB-15 Marines. Those are like my unicorns. I have 2 boxes of them. And
is that the Strike Force?
Yeah, the Mark 7 Strike Force. Those were like, there's a story behind it, but it's kind of a long tell. But I bought my first new in-box Strike Force back in 2002 off eBay. I got it for $20, and then I just recently bought another one for $175.
Oh wow! Yeah, I think I saw one go for around that the other week, and they are pricey.
Well, there was one set on eBay. Go ahead.
I was going to say they've got a slightly different shoulder from what I remember. The
RTB-15s
like a little.
Yeah, they've got the ball and socket like the RTB-01s do, and the
How
arm.
does that work with the arms?
The arms, the RTB-15 arms are different than second edition arms. There was a lot more variety to them, and they have the socket inside for the ball. I
did not know that. I always thought that they were the same arms as like the later ones that thought they'd be sticking out really far.
No, there was a lot more variety in the arms, and like honestly, the way I look at it is the RTB-15 arms were far superior than the second edition arms were. Especially like, I don't know how they overlooked it, but like everybody knows who's built second edition Metal Marines, that right arm that's, cocked at, a 90-degree angle, you can never fit a bolter or anything on there without shaving the back of the bolter off or shaving the shoulder pad down. Whereas the RTB-15 Marines didn't have that problem.
No, I never knew that. See, every day is a school day, so I learned something new today. Now I need to get some.
I'll have to. I'll take after the show, probably tomorrow. If you want me to, I'll take a picture of like an old second edition sprue versus RTB-15.
Yeah. All these years, I thought they were the same. Those 4 arms with the 2 bolters on the.
No,
end,
you can take RTB-01 Marine arms and file down the shoulder pads and use them on the RTB-15 Marines. You just put a Mark 7 shoulder pad over it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got me intrigued now. I'm going to have to get a set.
Oh, they're great. I mean, like the bodies are all just generic, the generic Marines from second edition, but the guy with his foot cocked against his other leg, he actually had a different Aquila. He didn't have a jewel. It was like almost like like the bottom of like the eagle's tail feathers. And they all have. I'll
have to have a look.
They all have pouches that were filed away for the second edition versions.
So are they were the second edition metals just versions of those with like a few extras?
Yeah, they took
or were they complete resculpts?
No, they took the RTB-15, the 3 bodies that they released. There was a couple of extra bodies that were in 2 pieces, but they weren't part of the box set. There was actually a captain torso you could get, but the 3 that were in the box set, they GW, I think Jess Goodwin did it. He cut the ball off the arm, made it flat, and got rid of the pouch on the leg. And then on the one with his cocked leg, he redid the Aquila so it had a jewel in the center. And then they just recast all 3. Or they just remolded all 3 of them.
Okay.
So they are the same sculpts for the most part.
All right. So now we all know this, and we put it out there. Everyone's going to want a set, and those prices are going to go up even more now.
Oh, bollocks. So with going into the second question, did you get it? I'm assuming I think you answered it. Did you get into the hobby because of the gaming or the painting?
Yeah, the painting side of it, just the miniatures. Seeing those heavy metal articles back in the day. Mm-hmm. And the pictures of armies on display. I think that was 100% what we wanted to achieve. We knew there was a game, but the game was just on the end, a way to play with your models and drive.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing my copy of Space Marine and Adeptus Titanicus and seeing the models in there and all the artwork. That's what hooked me immediately. I couldn't understand. I think I was 11 when I got them, and I didn't understand anything about the game, but I just saw all these amazing illustrations, and the Adeptus Titanicus book, the covers were all in color, so all the miniatures on the back of the covers were all in color, and I was just like, oh, those are super cool. Like nothing like it.
Enticing back then.
What's that?
The artwork and everything, the whole aesthetic was really on point, I think.
Oh yeah,
for making you want to get into it.
Oh, there was nothing like it at the time.
I'm just trying to think. When we went in, you had the cover art for the boxes. It was all hand drawn, wasn't it, as opposed to miniature photography. And I still remember that gives you so much more of a wow factor. It's almost like a miniature gallery of all this artwork.
Yeah.
But now with the photos, I went to one of the games days many years ago, and who was in charge of boxes, I said, why did you move away from real artwork to photos? And it was all to do with branding. They wanted people to know exactly what they got in the box, which you can understand from a business point of view, but I don't think it looks as good.
Well, there was a massive shift in brand identity and keeping things consistent from Rogue Trader to second edition. Yeah,
that was I can't even remember. What was that? Mid 90s, early 90s?
I think second edition was 93.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember where I must have been at high school when something out. I don't remember feeling that young, but I must have been very young.
How old are you now?
You feel like 25. No. I am 44 in July. A couple of months away. Yeah. So
yeah, you're a year and a couple months older than I am.
80s baby. So yeah, early teens maybe when that was all going on, and then like we spoke about, we all dumped it a few years later as we grew into our later teens, and it wasn't cool anymore.
So I was smart about it. I just packed all mine away.
That was very smart. Not many of us did that. Binned it off. I remember a guy even saying, if you're going to throw it away, can I have it?
Yeah.
And Mum was just like, just throw it all in the bin. Just get rid of it. I'm fed up with it all everywhere.
No, a lot of people ask me, they're like, where do you get all these old models from? And it's like, I kept all my stuff.
You did well. You did well. You must be one of the few that did that.
I feel kind of fortunate that I did that. And amazingly enough, like all the stuff in my Warhammer box in my storage room, everything's actually organized by like 40K, and then like Space Marines, and then like plastics, fantasy, miscellaneous stuff like that, epic scale. So it's actually kind of easy to dig through that box because I know where everything is.
Oh wow! We need to see this.
I might make a video of it one day. I don't know.
Yeah, we need to see. People love to see these old hoards and treasure troves.
Yeah. No, I offloaded a bunch of stuff to Warheezy up in Canada. I was like, I'm not gonna paint this. I'm not gonna paint that. I'm not gonna paint this. It was a 10 by 4 inch box just packed with stuff for him. So like when you see his new, he's actually working on it right now. When you see his Chaos Dreadnought, the old Rogue Trader one, that was actually mine.
Oh, that is a nice gift. That metal dreadnought is a sight to behold. You don't see many of those anymore. They're getting really expensive on eBay as well. I remember when they were about £5, and now they're what, 50, 60?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked it up. Like I'm at the point where like I'm probably in the next year going to buy a 3D scanner, like a micro scale 3D scanner, so I can scan in a lot of these old models and like clean them up in 3D and have a buddy of mine print them off for me, just so that way I can hold on to all the old stuff that's still metal. And like the biggest thing is I want to scan all 3 of those RTB 15 bodies plus their arm sprues and just print.
Yeah,
infant.
You'll be a busy man after that. You shouldn't have said that out loud.
Oh,
You'll get a... Have you made those arms yet? I need some of those arms. I want some of those arms.
no, I have not done them yet. And if anything, like I'll just throw the STLs out on the web. Here, have STL files. I don't care, print them. And I don't think Games Workshop is really going to care, given they barely even acknowledge that those things existed in the first place.
I don't know what their stance is on sort of older stuff. The new stuff they don't like. People. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can understand them getting a little pissy about the new stuff because that's their bread and butter. But I highly doubt they even still have the masters of the original miniatures floating around in archive. From what I've researched, like a lot of that stuff went with previous staff. I can't remember who it was. It's not Jess Goodwin. It was one other person. He's kind of like the master collector and holder of like most of the old 80s and early 90s stuff. There's actually a shop over in England. I forgot what they're called, but they're the other kind of like master.
Something Forge? Is it Something Forge? Brian Ansell? Are you talking about?
Possibly. It's an actual store, but like they bought a massive chunk of Rogue Trader and second edition miniatures and actually display them in the store. Like the actual studio models.
I need to go up there and have a look. I think there's a couple of videos on YouTube with those guys. They had the original metal Space Crusade prototypes in there as well, from what I remember.
Oh, wow.
There's a video on YouTube. I remember searching it up many moons ago. I think Mike McVeigh painted them, didn't he? The Blood Angels, which are slightly different to the actual plastic ones that came out.
It was either McVeigh or Prow. So like when Prow got to the studio, he started when he was like 16 or 17 at GW, and he was really good. And McVeigh took him under his wing and helped him get better. And Prow ended up leaving for like a year or two to go to university, and then came back. And Mike kept teaching him. And Prow was actually, I mean, his models replicated McVeigh's style at the time. And I actually asked Prow recently about it. He's like, I asked him, so it was you who did all the box art miniatures for second edition, like the early second edition stuff? He's like, yep, that was me. He's like, I was painting up the majority of the armies. I was doing like 20, 30 miniatures a month. And McVeigh, he was handling all the character model stuff. So he was only doing between 6 to 8 models a month. And he's like, it was just him and me for a while doing all this stuff. So all that early second edition stuff that you always thought was McVeigh, he's like, nope, it was me. And I was just like, okay, you 100%. Are my new god.
No, I'm in complete agreement. I recently found out, I don't know if you remember the old Blood Angels army they had, with the land.
Are you talking about the big box set?
Thud gun. No. Before that, just before second edition, they had their studio Blood Angels army. The old heavy metal pieces back in the day.
Oh, that's it was
the
a
one
mix.
With the chaplain.
It was a mix of RTB-15 and RTB-01 Marines plus that Thud gun and like a Rhino.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
That was all Tim Prow.
Okay.
And for many years, I wondered who painted this. And that was like me, as it were. I didn't even like Blood Angels, but that one I thought looked amazing.
I'm trying to get Tim on the show. He said he was interested in doing it, and if I can manage to swing it, I'm so like, if he comes on, I'll be insanely stoked just to be like, can I just touch you once? So rolling.
No, that would be really good.
Yeah. It also like, it would be so neat just to hear his stories about, the stuff that we grew up on.
No, I'd love to hear that.
Oh yeah. But rolling on to the next one. So you being in a painting, what kind of paints do you use?
Yeah. At the moment, I would say 90% Vallejo. I think there's some dotted about.
And I just noticed your paint sets in the background, you lucky bugger.
They were for some photos I was doing the other day. I managed to find those off a guy on Facebook. He was getting rid of those, and I was like, yeah, I'll have those.
mine.
I think I'll take you up on those. I think I paid a few quid for them, but there's still paints in them, but I don't know how usable they are.
Hey, dude, those old cylinders, if they're sealed, those are airtight. They're probably still good.
Yeah, well, I'll have a look one day, but it was more about the box art for me, so
Yeah, I miss the old.
we'll dig those paints out later.
I do miss the old Golden Demon that they on the box art that they had paint and stuff.
He is a nice mascot. I don't know, they've sort of done away with him a little recently, haven't they? He's still there in the trophies and in the background.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think he looks good.
I was like Louise on Rogue Hobbies. I don't think I can go a single episode without mentioning her. She got a commended entry pin one year from Golden Demon, and the next year she painted it and entered that as her entry in the open competition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. How did that get on? Did that get another pin?
I don't remember. I don't know, but I've seen photos of it in the case at Golden Demon. It's fully painted up, and I think it did get a commended again.
I'm gonna guess that she would have painted it in that what is it they call it with the chrome effect, the sky and earth on the words.
Oh yeah, the non-metallic
that?
metallic basically.
Yeah, that's sort of her style, isn't it? It looks good. Her use of color is amazing. I try it and it looks a mess.
Oh, she got a commended for her crayon eater.
Oh, what? A crayon?
Now, do you know what the crayon eaters are?
No. What is a crayon eater?
There's a whole video of it on our channel, but crayon eaters started in Space Marine 2. Basically, people just taking, you can customize your armor in the game, so people were making every piece of armor a different color. And the chapter became the Crayon Eaters.
Like a homebrew chapter.
Yeah. And she,
Okay.
I think her video like 2 or 3 weeks ago, she actually painted up a Crayon Eater and entered it in Golden Demon this year.
Nice. Oh, I can imagine it looks a bit like a Harlequin Space Marine.
A little bit. But back to the painting thing. So you primarily use Vallejo color?
Pretty much, yeah. I've dabbled in other things, I always like to try, if I see something in a video and they've said this is good, I'll have a little go myself. But usually I find myself gravitating back to the Vallejo.
Mm-hmm.
Citadel I used to use a lot of, but I don't like their current formula.
Thank you. Thank you.
But it's really hard to explain. It's almost like, I don't know, plasticky. It's really strange. I don't know how I would explain it. It's like, it's not glossy, but it feels glossy.
They use some weird acrylic medium now in their paints, and like when I got back into painting last year, I ended up buying a load. Like I started out with Vallejo model color. My best friend recommended it to me because like all my old paints dried out. Being here in Vegas, my paints were in my storage room, but they were up against the wall. They were against the wall that catches a bunch of sunlight, so they all dried up due to the heat. So I had to rebuy all my paints. Bought Vallejo color, was really enjoying model color, and then figured out that the modern Citadel layer paints were the same consistency as the paints that you and I grew up with, but in using them, I found that like I couldn't glaze with them like third generation, like the Citadel paints from the 2000s. I couldn't glaze my colors. I couldn't wet blend my colors properly. I was just constantly fighting the paint, and I just thought it was really strange. And from there, I got into Pro Acryl, and now I'm Pro Acryl 2 thin coats. I love AK, but it was definitely. They are not the same, and they just use some weird acrylic medium, and they seem to really lack pigment.
There's something going on there, isn't it? I couldn't tell you what it is. They might be fine for people who like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's all about your style, isn't it? If it fits with what you want, then it's good. If it's not, then it's no good.
Yeah, if you're interested, the third generation paints from Citadel, the ones that were out in the 2000s. Pro Acryl.
The third gens.
Yeah, Pro Acryl are almost identical to those.
Okay. Say I've got one Pro Acryl paint, the white one that everyone says is wonderful.
Titanium white.
One. Yeah, I use that one. That's the only one I have, and I keep thinking I need to try the others.
Try Pyro Red. That is the best red you'll ever use. It's
okay.
I mean, like when you apply it, it needs its own volume knob. It's so bold. Louise's Rogue Hobbies Orange Red, which is identical to Blood Angels Red from the 90s.
There you go. You've just saved me some research there for some future work.
And another, like the other god tier color I absolutely adore is bright ivory.
Yeah.
It works really well for undercoating white. It's great to highlight bone up with. But yeah, give those 3 or 4 colors a shot and see what you think. And if you ever do ultramarines, pick up Pro Acryl Ultramarine Blue. It's great. It's super matte too.
Yeah, I do like the matteness. I think is key nowadays for me and how I like to paint. What is their black like? Have you tried their black?
Yeah, I have a charcoal black. It's a very matte black. It's not a pure black, but what I found with matte blacks is you can't get them pure black like a gloss or a satin. They tend to be a little bit lighter. Right. So it's yeah. I bought it. I haven't really used it. I primarily use Vallejo Model Color Black, and I just got into using AK Black.
So I do use the Vallejo Model Color Black, but the last pot I bought was their new branding. They've changed the branding a bit, haven't they? And I don't know if it's just my brain playing tricks on me, but it felt like the formula was different.
They did reformulate it.
I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this as much as the old one. It might be exactly the same. And it's just me assuming it's going to be different because the bottle is different. But it just didn't seem quite right.
No, they
it didn't seem as matte. It felt a bit more glossy in there.
They took the model color that they had was a slightly different formulation to game color was a slightly different formulation to model color, and they reformulated model color to be the same as game color. And supposedly now they fixed the issue with the bubbles. I guess like there's more pigmentation in them. They're a thinner paint, so they don't, you get a bottle of certain Vallejo model color and it comes out like glue. So supposedly they fixed that. And every single model color
went the other way around.
Every single model color now comes in a clear bottle.
Okay. So you can see it as opposed to the frosting that you had before.
Yeah. That's one thing about modern paints that drives me nuts. The companies that still use frosted plastic. It's like, can you just use clear, please?
It's cheaper, isn't it, at the end of the day? Probably all comes down to money, I would assume.
Possibly.
Clear plastic probably costs more. You can use old plastic for frosting, just chuck a bit.
Yeah.
Now I'm just trying to look at this. I've got one of these Humbrol acrylics here. I don't know if you can see that.
I've never even heard of those.
And this is really good. I only have one of these, and it is really. So I'd recommend a couple of those if you get a chance.
Yeah, I don't know if we get those stateside or not.
No, I don't know. I'd never seen them before. I was trying to match a color, and I couldn't find anything. And I found these, and I thought, oh, that's the color I want. I've never heard of this brand. We'll have to give it a punt. And it turned out really good, really nice and matte, and it covers well.
Yeah.
Key things. If it's matte and it covers well, that's it. I'm happy.
Well, I found like with matte, like they seem to I don't know, they seem to glaze easier for highlighting, and they seem to almost wet blend better than like a gloss or a satin does. That was actually my one biggest thing with Vallejo model color was it doesn't like to glaze very well. It's kind of weird. Certain colors you got to like really dilute, and then other colors you just good luck.
I guess it depends on the individual paint, doesn't it? Some of them are very different to others. Like I have one blue, I think it's a Prussian blue, and it's almost like a gloss varnish with a blue tint.
Oh yeah, Prussian blue.
Shiny.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I love the color, but I can't use it.
It's
too glossy.
I don't know if you went digging through my pics or not, but that Warlord Titan that I did last year, the dark blue on him was Vallejo Prussian blue, and it was.
Did you do anything with it to take the gloss out? Did you mix anything in?
I think I just highlighted it up with white, and the weird thing about it was after I clear coated it, it actually went. It changed. It shifted colors slightly. Like it actually.
No, that sounds like something.
It looks better with a clear coat.
Gloss out. Oh, I'll have to have a look at that one because I cannot use that color. Some of those colors I can't use, but I keep. What is the new one that comes out? Is it Fnatic? I'm hearing a lot of good things about recently.
Oh, Warpainter.
Is it Is it the new version of Army Painter?
Yeah, Army Painter, War Painter Fanatic.
I keep hearing they're really good, but I haven't had a chance to try those yet. But at the end of the day, if the person who likes them says they're good, you never really know until you try it yourself.
I've got
we need to buy tester pots.
I've got a handful of their colors. Like for my Space Wolves, they actually replicate Space Wolves gray and blue gray, aka shadow gray from the old color lines. They have two colors that mimic those like damn near perfectly. So I use those for my Space Wolves.
Yeah. And how do you find the coverage of those?
They're not bad. They're a little weird. War Painter's just a little weird in that you have to use, or you got to be careful after like they dry. They stay a little sticky for a few minutes. That's because like you can actually kind of reactivate them for blending. But once you get past that behavior, they're actually pretty good paints. I mean, I water mine down considerably. So you know what you get out of the dropper bottle is not what I actually put on the model. But I'd say give them a shot, see what you think.
I haven't heard of that. Yeah, I'm a little bit scared now. You said they reactivate.
Well, you're obviously in the background. You're using handles, so and like the reactivation. I mean, you've really got to kind of work at it. But for like what I'm doing, the way I blend my Space Wolf armor, it helps me because I'm working from a blue gray to Space Wolf's gray up to white.
Yeah,
and it's no different than honestly, it's no different than Pro Acryl titanium white that you've got.
No. All right, yeah, we'll give those a try. I'll have to find a little project to try them on.
Yeah.
When you get to paint bravely, as it were. I think that's the phrase they like to use.
Yeah, and I mean the nice thing is, you know, you mentioned Citadel earlier and it being kind of now. At least you know, like I've said this on the show before, with Citadel and with Army Painter. You know, they've got the triad system going on, so you can, you know, entry level painters can, you know, you want to paint ultramarine, so you buy these 5 colors for the armor, and then you buy these 3 colors for the metallics, and these 3 colors for the reds. So it helps introduce the, you know, the novice painter to the idea of like you start with this and you highlight up.
No, I do like that. I've seen that on a couple of ranges, and I think that is good. You can even buy little sets. I think I saw it in Vallejo. They had like a blue gradient set, and you could buy a red gradient set. And I thought, oh, I fancy one of those, and then realised I had all those paints individually. Just the idea of having them in a nice set just seemed better. So maybe if I rearranged my paints and actually paid attention to what I had, I might actually have what I need. But they're just a bit of a mess at the moment.
So I think for guys like us, you know, we were raised in the 90s where, you know, we didn't have that. It was just like, okay, you start with Blood Angels Red and then you highlight it with Blood Angels, or you start with Blood Red, you go to Blood Angels or Blood Angel Red or Blood Angel Orange, and then you highlight it with crap, what was that orange called? I keep wanting to say Sunburst.
Blazing, Flaming, there was a few oranges, wasn't there?
Blazing, was it Blazing Orange?
I think there was a blazing orange, and I think there was a flaming orange. Which paints are we talking? The 3rd edition?
Second edition.
The hexagonal ones?
2nd edition and 3rd edition colors were still all named pretty much the same.
Yeah, okay. You've got the ones at the top of your podcast here. Those hexagonal ones.
Yeah.
Which ones were they?
2nd gen.
Were they the 2nd gen? Okay.
Yeah, they tweaked like when they went to 3rd gen for the 2000s, they tweaked the formula a little bit. They were trying to go more matte with a lot of their colors. But 1st and 2nd gen paints, they were pretty similar. 3rd gen was when they decided to go matte, and then we're into 4th gen now, which is just, no.
No, yeah, the 3rd gen ones are the ones I think I liked the most.
Yeah.
From what I remember. They were the ones where I used them all the time, and it must have been when they swapped onto whatever they've got nowadays is when I then moved on to Vallejo instead of the Citadel.
Yeah, they started going into I don't quite know when the formula flipped, but I know like they toward the late 2000s, I think it was 2009, is when they introduced shade paints to replace the inks with. And I remember trying to find
Devil and Mud.
Yeah, I tried to find black ink, and then I went and they had, I think it was Badab Black or Abaddon Black or something like that. It was no longer called an ink. It said shade on there. I tried to use it. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I have one here. I haven't got one on my hand at them. They had like the white top, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or was it the black top?
It was the white top.
Was it? I'm trying to think. Which range were these from? These
That's
are the
like
washes with a black flip top.
That's like
I
want to say that's
after?
like the 2010s, because that's when they changed paint
Stuff
pots.
laying around. But yeah, those ones. That old black ink you liked, from what I remember, was rebranded Winsor and Newton black ink.
Oh, really?
I don't know how true that was. Yeah, apparently, you hear a lot of these little stories, don't you, over the years? This is just this rebranded. That was that rebranded. So yeah, the old inks were apparently rebranded, bottled Winsor and Newtons. So if you want to try it,
I've adapted to the contrast paints now for using as inks, and I'll water them down to the particular opacity that I want. But I like that the one highlight of Games Workshop paints now. I do like the contrast paints. I use them like inks, but again, I water them down. But I do like the fact that like you can no longer reactivate them. Like once they're dry, they're dry. You can't, if you accidentally get water on it, oh crap, the blue just reactivated and just screwed up half a leg on a Space Marine.
Yeah, no, that is nasty when that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you say watering them down, are you using water or are you using the you get as well? I can't remember what it's called.
I think it's called Lamian Media.
Is it just contrast medium?
Oh, contrast medium,
okay.
Yeah. No, I just use I use water. I don't use any of those medium thingamajiggers. I like my last guest, dude's he's here in the US, and he's like a multi-time Nova winner. Like the guy is just phenomenal good. We got into talking about this a little bit. He actually he likes to putz around with airbrush thinner.
Oh really?
Yeah.
As a thinner for his paints.
Mm-hmm.
For painting by hand with a brush.
Yep. And I've actually seen quite a few people do that.
That sounds quite good, actually. No,
yep.
I'll have to try that. Is he using like the water-based ones, or is it one of the alcohol ones?
Probably water-based.
The solventy ones.
I'm guessing it's water-based.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people about the like alcohol-based paints and whatnot, and the consensus seems to be all the same, that like you don't want to use alcohol-based paints with acrylic or just in general. They actually, like, alcohol will eat into acrylic.
Yeah. Okay. As in messes up layers or just messes up the paint?
It'll mess up the paint.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll give those a miss.
you use a tub of alcohol to strip plastic miniatures now, and it just eats right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a fan of stripping. I just stripped all these. I think it's like 52 Marines I stripped a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say that again.
That's a lot of patience.
It was awful, but I know. I think it took 3 days, 3 sessions, a lot of elbow grease. We got there in the end, but
oh wow!
Once this is done, and we can move on. But yeah, I think it's worth it. You can paint straight over things, but I find the detail, even once you've put some primer on, you can see the detail.
Yeah,
I think it's quite noticeable. So I thought I've got to do it. We've got to strip these.
So coming out of the whole painting conversation, I got a whole bunch of cool ones we could talk about. This will be a good one for you. Who influenced your painting style?
I've never been asked that question, and I was not expecting such a question. I would say probably Mike McVeigh, Tim Prow originally, and then after then, it's just a bit from here, a bit from there. Mm-hmm. I'll see someone else's paint style, have a go at it because I think that looks really nice. Fail completely, go back to my old original style. I don't know. You must know the Squidmark guys.
Yeah, I met both of them at LVO.
Their style, I love it. Like I've tried to do it, I can't. They make it look so easy, but it's just I can't do it. My brain will not allow me to paint like that. It's too stuck in the 90s.
There's something to be said about Grim Bright. I mean, it's just fun.
Yeah, but I've got to try. And then I've been influenced by like the military side of it, with the whole Forge world. It's all the airbrushing meant to be painted in that realistic manner and everything, no edge highlighting, lots of weathering.
Yeah.
I quite like that. I was influenced by that for quite a long time. And again, I found myself coming back to where I started again. So but you always pull a piece back with you. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of branching out into all these various influences and putting them all together in my own little ball.
Well, it seems like when you branch out and try something new, it may not work out the way that you want it to, or to replicate the style of the person, but you did something right when you walk away learning a few things from it.
I mean, yeah, there's always something to learn. Every day is a school day, isn't it, as they say? And just even if you pick up one little piece of, advice, one little technique, you can add it to your repertoire. It's all drips in the bucket. Eventually your bucket becomes full.
And you got to get a bigger bucket.
The one that's it. The one thing I keep trying to convince myself is to just don't worry and just paint something and just don't care about the final result. Don't worry about it. Just try these new methods.
Yeah.
And I find the best thing to do that on is models you like, but you're not too worried about the final result on. And you can go to town and just try stuff. And I think they're the ones I actually enjoy the most.
Yeah.
You don't have that fear of ruining your favorite models. I don't know if you have something like that.
When I did Ulrich Slayer, he was a challenge for sure. That was the first time I painted a new Space Wolf, and I come to find I really actually like the way Games Workshop is sculpting fur now. It makes it a lot easier to paint.
Yeah.
I learned a lot more about working with metallics. I picked up a new method of like doing metallics almost in like grayscale, where you just paint, like you start with a black base coat and you build up the silver highlights and then go back through and actually use contrast paint over the top of it to stain to stain it to whatever color.
I've not seen that.
And I as much as I hated that model, it took me a month to paint. When I was done with it, I was tired of looking at it. But I put them away. I stuck them in my case, and then I took them to LVO and actually got something for it. But I walked away with, I'd say, a good 4 or 5 lessons learned that I incorporated into my workflow as it is now. And I think, anytime for me personally, I really like to be challenged in what I create. So walking away from that with like 4 or 5 new lessons, or, the Blood Angels painting tutorial that I did, if you make a painting tutorial, like video, you really pay attention to what you're doing, because you have to put it together in some kind of like ordered and cohesive manner for people to understand. And it makes you really think about like the actual steps you take and the way that you work to achieve what you do. And even with that Blood Angel, I walked away with a couple of new things in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to overwrite that with this. This works way better.
Yeah, we're always learning, aren't we? We always come up with new ways, better ways. There's always somewhere to improve.
I think I'm going to use your saying. I really like that. Every day is a school day.
That's what I mean. You're always picking up things.
Yeah.
You never know it all. I actually find the more you learn, the less you find out, because there's just so much going on. You think you know it all, and then you realize you have no idea.
Yeah.
Because you always open up these big avenues of things to look at. It's great.
The fellow that I talked to in my last episode, the guy that Nova winner, like listening to his approach and just BSing with him, in the break segments and then after the show, it was really interesting to hear like his approach and the way that he works, and like even him, as good as he is, when he was talking about his blue formula for his Night Lord Terminator that he's working on right now. He's like, somebody asked me about it, and I couldn't explain it if I tried. But
can you remember what it was? Because I've tried Night Lords and I can never get that blue right.
He didn't really go on about the blue, but I'm sure if you actually DM him, he's a super cool guy. He'd be more willing to talk to you about it. How
do you like your Night Lords? This is the question I'm going to ask you.
With lots of lightning.
You like the lightning? Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the few Night Lords I painted like in second edition era, like when I was a teenager, I love painting Night Lords. I always like that the real dark blue of the armor, but you can go really light around the lightning bolts, and there's no exact way you have to paint the lightning bolts. You can put them wherever you want. It's almost like the Alpha Legion, how you can do the scales wherever you want it on the armor.
No, they're those little fun pieces you get to add on at the end.
Yeah,
so you get to have a little bit of creative freedom, I think the term is.
I do like how at least that people complain about scale creep in 40K and all that. I do like that the Chaos miniatures, they've gotten bigger, and there's more room for the creativity on the armor now, as opposed to the stuff that we had in second edition, and it was actually kind of cramped. And as cool as they were at the time, you go back and look at those old Chaos Terminator sculpts from the 90s, like the second edition ones, and oh god, I thought about painting one for competition, but I just keep looking at it. I'm like, I don't want to paint this. I didn't even want to paint this as a teenager.
Are they the ones when you see the sculpt and you can see all this detail, but you don't actually know what that detail is?
Yeah, kind of.
That's what I look at, and I'm thinking, am I looking at a piece of armor here? Am I looking at flesh, or are these, is this like some sort of medal or medallion?
Yeah.
And normally you find out after you've painted it.
Oh, yeah.
You painted it wrong, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was cloth.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff on those old Terminators that would, like, in those old Chaos Marines from second edition. It was like some of it was almost unfinished detail, or it was just cramming too much into one small area where it's like you probably should have gone a little bit simpler with this. And actually, quite like those old ones. I mean, with what we're talking about right now, it can actually, it would lead into this question: how do old Games Workshop minis compare to new?
I feel like I prefer the character of the old ones when they were hand sculpted. When I see, like, say, the old metal Space Marines, I like they're weird, aren't they? Big heads, massive hands, like really comical. But I just love the character of them, and I like the simplicity. But the new ones are good. I think I just like the older ones because that was my era.
So kind of a nostalgia factor.
Yeah, I think so, but I can't get on board the Space Marine Primaris bandwagon. I just, they don't do it for me. I don't know why. If I had to think of a reason, I don't mind the scale increase. I find that they've just added bits for the sake of adding bits.
Yeah.
Like the little knee crests. I don't know if that's the correct term.
Oh, you're talking about the thing that comes off the top of the knee pad?
Yeah, don't like it. It just looks like they've added it on there because they need to add something to make it different. It's for the sake of making it different. And it feels like we've just gone that little bit too far.
Did you watch the Adepticon Games Workshop release for the Space Wolves?
No. Yes, I did. I saw the pictures. I didn't watch it. I saw the pictures. They looked good. I did actually like those.
I like how I don't know
what they've done.
They're starting to evolve the Primaris armor and get a little bit more stylized with it. Also, with the blood claws, I like that they got rid of that stupid knee crest. And
they've got rid of it.
Yeah,
that might be why I like them.
Yeah, some of the blood claws are missing it, and some of the blood claws actually have Mark 6 and Mark 7 helmets. I'm like, oh yes!
They're sort of, I guess now there's mixing it in and normalizing somehow as opposed to making it different. But I noticed with those, the posing seemed a lot better.
Yeah.
Than the original. I found the original Primaris stuff a bit gangly. Like there's a few poses where to me it looks like their knees have given way and they're about to collapse. They're meant to be striding forward, but it looks like the knee has given way. It just looks really weird to me.
Yeah, it almost like it seems like they're finally, like, Games Workshop is finally kind of getting they've gotten into the groove of the Primaris Marines because they're no longer the new thing. They've been around for a minute, and
I was going to say I can always imagine there must be someone in the studio who's directing this and saying this is the direction we want to go with. I want you all to make these, and I just think maybe when you see it changes, maybe a different person has taken over.
Well, it's. I mean, they've got a whole you look at Darren Latham, and he's one of the designers for some of the models there. But I mean, they have multiple designers working on multiple on just the same model. I have a feeling that they've got. I mean, they're doing all this in 3D now, so they have all the assets that they built, and it seems like when I came back into it, Primaris were the standard now for Space Marines, and I'm just thinking like they look so sterile, and I can't get into it.
Copy pasted, copy pasted assets across the board, I would assume.
Now that the Space Wolves are debuting, they're into the third army redesign. So it's like they released the base Primaris, the plain ones or the generic ones that can be used for any army, and then they did the Dark Angels, and then they did the Blood Angels, and now they're on the Space Wolves. And I mean, like the Dark Angels, it was cool that they made them look like Dark Angels. They have cloaks, and they're like the whole Gothic motif that we saw in like the second edition re-release or the second edition updates. And then you've got the Blood Angels, where they really went full ham on customizing the armor to make them look like Blood Angels, like give them what they did with Dark Angels, give them a real distinct character. And now they're doing the same thing with Space Wolves. So it seems like, okay, we got the basis with the generic Marines all set up. Let's actually start evolving this base that we set up with the generic Marines. I mean, it was even the same way in second edition, where like you had each, the primary armies, the Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Ultramarines, and Space Wolves. And the Ultramarines, well, there was a lot of, kind of copying and pasting with the generic Marines just to fill out the ranks. But you look at like the Blood Claws from second edition, and then the Death Company from second edition. And then toward the end of second edition, they really started expanding out the armies, the character models, the jump pack Marines, the vehicle, the Space Marine bikes and stuff like that. So they just really established the Mark 7 armor, and then they just started really expanding on the Mark 7 armor. And one thing I wanted to say about Primaris, and I've argued with people about it in like modern times, and they're like, "You're insane." I'm like, "No, I'm not." Primaris armor is the full realization of the Mark 8 errant armor.
Okay. The only thing I can remember about Mark 8 was the collar and the ball joint on the ankle.
Yeah.
They were and the Primaris do have the ball joint, don't they? Or that cover thing. So yeah, that makes sense. Where was Mark 9? What happened to Mark 9?
Nobody knows. It didn't exist.
From what I remember, people were asking, and that was one of those questions like, we'll get to that another day.
Well, it's kind of like with Windows. It's like, where was Windows 9?
Do you think it's because it just sounds cooler to have Mark X, or do you think there is a reason? I don't consider it Mark X. I consider it Mark 8. It's errant armor, because I mean, like you look at I think we only got 2 or 3 actual released errant armor models in second edition, and then GW was like, no, we're not going to do anything with that. And if you take the old Mark 8, it was I think 2. If you hold them side by side or look at the picture side by side with Primaris armor, you can actually see a lot of design cues from errant armor in Primaris. Okay, I'm going to have a look at that now.
The biggest difference was they brought back the Mark 4 faceplate, which I can't stand because it looks too Riot Gear.
Riot Gear.
Yeah, like like SWAT team like mask. Mm-hmm. Like if I think that's just something from the generation of like who they're marketing to. A lot of younger kids that grew up playing Gears of War and Fallout and all that stuff. So the futuristic armor look, the mask is I think it just kind of goes along with what the younger generations kind of are into.
No, I think when we see Mark IV, they've changed Mark IV over the years as well, haven't they? The original Mark IV had like a longer nose. It was almost like a squared off Mark VI with the end cut off.
Hang on.
It had like a droop to it. It looked a bit like a fox, is the only way I can explain it. If you look at some like early Mark IV sculpts.
No, Mark IV is, it's kind of a mixed bag.
And then they bring it up. They flatten the nose over time on the Mark IV and make it look like what it is today. But some of those early Mark IVs look quite strange, like a windsock face we used to call it.
Mark III is that's the iron armor.
Yeah, I don't see if I can find it here as well.
Mark V is that weird. almost Mark 7 looking armor, and then we went to Beakies, and then we went to Mark 7. And we all know that sneaky Beakies are the best Marines ever.
I do like my Mark 6. I do like I think I like all of them. I'm starting to like Mark 5 again now.
That's actually what I was just looking at. It's called Heresy armor.
Mark 5. Yeah, I think Mark 5 looks nice. I can probably find it on that SOL Legends site. I don't know if you've been on there.
Mm-mm.
Can I send you links and things through here?
No, it's send it through Instagram.
Are we cutting all this out, us looking for stuff?
Oh, hell no. We'll leave it in here. One thing I actually wanted to suggest to you was since you're into RTB01 Marines, what I've been doing with mine is for the ball joint, the ball and socket setup for their arms. If you've ever noticed, it's a real pain in the butt to glue them in place.
I noticed it was odd. I've literally just built some RTB01s, and I thought, they're going to be really easy, but they were a faff.
What I started doing was actually on the arm portion where the socket is, I'll fill it with green stuff, and
on the actual arm.
Yeah, like fill the cavity with green stuff, and then put a drop of water on the arm itself, and then put a drop of water on the ball. And force the arm into place where you want it, like the positions that you actually want it on, and then very carefully take it off, let it dry, and then sand away all of the excess green stuff. That way, when you go to put them together, it's an exact mold of the ball, and you just drop a little bit of super glue in there. You don't have to. You're not sitting there fidgeting with them. You're like, crap, this wasn't the exact pose I wanted. And it's like the flamer that's at the bottom of my screen that we're on now. I used the green stuff on him, the green stuff method on him, and the 3 beakies I'm painting up right now. I did the same thing, and it's perfect.
Works every time.
Yeah.
I noticed that I had to hold those for some of them. I found myself slicing a bit of the end of the torso off, just so I had a little bit more play there.
Yeah,
they're old models, aren't they?
That's kind of what makes them fun too.
Putting them together, yeah.
But yeah, try the green stuff thing. Since you're really big in RTB01s, I think you'll find that it really helps.
All right, we'll have a go at that.
Yeah. Are you still looking at pictures?
I cannot find what I want to show you. Well, I'll have to send it afterwards.
Okay, no worries. This is another good one for us. We've discussed this a little bit. How do you think 90s Eavy Metal Grim Bright painting compares to like current day Eavy Metal Grim Dark painting?
Current Grim Bright versus
90s Eavy Metal
Dark?
Grim Bright versus modern Grim Dark.
Okay. I think they're styles that if you like them, you like them. If you don't want to do them, you don't have to do them. I think they've become more refined, haven't they? It's like you have some proper grimdark stuff nowadays, with literally like zero color. Well, I think it looks good for what it is, but it's not my bag. I like a bit of color.
Well, we were talking, I think, before the show. Bollocks! My train of thought just derailed. We were talking about it before the show. Okay, I give up. I forgot. It's 2:30 in the morning. No, it's the last guest I had on. I was talking to him. I asked him the same question, and we both kind of came to an agreement on that. Like, it seems that when you get into like the guys who are like Zumikito, Emil and Lucas and stuff like that, guys who are basically walking away with like placing in Golden Demon. It almost seems like that the 90s Grim Bright stuff actually comes back into play with you want to draw attention to a certain area of the model, or like non-metallic metallics, like the really bright, bold, vivid colors really make a big comeback, and they're not even like some of them aren't even really super realistic. They're actually kind of more cartoony, and it seems like the Grim Bright painting is still kind of around, but being used in a different manner for that level of painting.
I would assume it's because it's all evolving, isn't it? And everyone's picking their styles. I mean, you have these top men as I like to call them. And you get a lot of people imitating it, and you have these trends, and everyone goes towards a trend. And there was a style. I remember when it was like the European or the Spanish style of painting was them coming into play, and that must have been like the first. You had your heavy metal style, edge highlighting and things like that, and then all of a sudden this European style came in, and it wasn't edge highlighting; it was more volumetric highlighting. And I just noticed these trends because a lot of Space Marines nowadays I see painted, they are all volumetrically highlighted, aren't they?
Some of them,
heavy metal stuff. Yeah. I just think they're trends and styles. They come and go. Like we said before, they all sort of blend into one eventually.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume there'll be another trend or style come along in a couple more years, depending on what the top men are doing at the time.
I'm gonna have to borrow that one too. Every day's a school day and top men.
The top men, yeah, the guys that everyone's looking up to.
Yeah.
The trendsetters, the cool kids.
Like one painter I wish would come back. I've talked to him a couple of times, and he doesn't really respond to my messages anymore. But one painter I would love to see come back and just start doing stuff again is Kim Seidberg.
I didn't even know he was still in the game.
He's not. He does. He got into doing like illustration work, like concept illustration work. I think he was actually working on movies and stuff, especially for like vehicle work. But I sent him. He was actually, this was 2021, I think. I found him on Facebook and asked. We started talking a little bit, and I was like, "Hey, do you still have any of your old Space Wolves?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Can you do me a huge favor and like take a close-up shot with your iPhone or your Android?" He's like, "Yeah, hang on a minute." Like 10 minutes later, he sends me like 2 close-up shots of a Terminator and a Grey Hunter from the old White Dwarf article.
From the spread back in the day.
Yeah.
I remember looking at that on my paper round.
And they're just as amazing that close up. I mean, like the thing that I wanted to see was if he actually made any mistakes, to see if, he was actually human. And there was actually some minor mistakes here and there. And it was like, God, it's like, I mean, these were God tier in White Dwarf all those years ago when you and I were teenagers, and getting to see him up close. And it's like, cool. I mean, they're still God tier, but it's actually nice to know that, like, he's human.
Is he the one that upscaled a Terminator?
Yeah,
before
he did that.
Upscaling was a thing.
Yeah, he did that. He made his own Wolf Lord. Yeah, there you
go. They are perfect 90s, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a good portion of my life trying to replicate his style, and I sent him my Terminator that's actually down at the bottom of the screen here that I did for Olden Demon last year. I sent it to him, and he's like, dude, you nailed it spot on. That's like better than what I could do.
They do look amazing. It's the black lining. I love that black lining.
And I
so much of that
sat down and figured out actually how he did the armor. That's actually just old blue gray / shadow gray, just highlighted up with pure white. I don't think he even used Space Wolves gray in it.
It was all, I remember as a child thinking that the paint name gave you the clue as to, what color to use. So I would assume when I was young, Blood Angels orange, we can paint Blood Angels. And then you paint a Marine with that Blood Angels orange, and it was not right. It was not a Blood Angel. You'd end up with just an orange Marine. And then later I found out that was the highlight color, wasn't it? The named color was usually the highlight color, but the base color was something completely different. And I always thought the base color should be the named color.
Yeah. Well, I think like in Rogue Trader, like the painting guides that they showed, they always started with terracotta. And I always felt that was like too brown. But I think in second edition, when Prow and McVeigh came up with the style guide to standardize to paint, the entire Blood Angels range, they started with a base of blood red, and then they did Blood Angels orange, and then they went up to like fiery orange, and then mixed in a little, I think, sunburst yellow or whatever it was called.
There is a full painting guide of that style, isn't there, by Tim in one of those old White Dwarfs? Explaining the whole thing. Yeah, I can't remember which issue it is.
It's an old one. It's in the 100s.
Like 130, yeah, something around there. But I need to dig that one out. I want to try my hand at that one day.
Oh, trying to
using current paints. That's when you said that Pro Acryl color. Which red was it?
Orange red. It's the one from Louise's Rogue Hobbies.
I'm gonna write that down now.
Yeah. Did you actually watch the Blood Angels tutorial I did?
I haven't seen that yet. No.
It's I use 3 colors for my Blood Angels. The way I do them now is Pyral red, orange red, and then mixing up to just orange from Pro Acryl.
No, they look good. It works. Once you found a method that works, you're done.
And now that I've discovered that god tier color, and I'm sure you're familiar with it using Vallejo Ice Yellow.
You say that. You were speaking about this in one of your previous videos with someone, and I remember stopping what I was doing, and I was thinking, I've never heard of this Ice Yellow.
Oh, dude,
I have Ice Yellow.
Yeah, you got it.
Lemon yellow.
Nope, different color.
I don't think this.
It's
different color. What is Ice Yellow?
It's a really
sounds like it should be blue.
No, it's like a desaturated yellow. It's I don't know. It's Vallejo has it, AK has it, and Army Painter, War Painter has it, and all 3 of them are almost identical. And so, like, I want to evolve my Blood Angel painting style, and I'm gonna do it for the miniature I'm painting up for LVO. I'm gonna do the new chaplain with a jump pack for the Blood Angels. But for mix, I'm going to go past orange and actually mix in some of that ice yellow for like a final highlight. And just like, when I get to pure ice yellow, just use that like the modern style, just dot, the very edges of the armor with. Just to try to channel my inner goblin green.
Yeah, no, I think he's an amazing painter, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Will's great.
I haven't seen much out of his channel recently.
He's on hiatus right now. I was trying to get him to come on the show, but he's taking a break from hobby stuff. He was telling me he's just got a bunch of work stuff going on right now, so he's had to take a break.
Adulting gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah. No,
yeah, fun. You say Ice Yellow for highlighting. I remember, I'm going back again, when I was at college studying art. I remember looking into Boris Vallejo. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
I'm very familiar with Boris Vallejo.
I don't know if that's linked, if his name is linked with the Vallejo paints in any way, or if that's a coincidence.
That's a good question.
But anyway, I always remember reading that he would like to use yellows as his highlights because it gave you a more brighter looking highlight as opposed to whites.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Maybe I should take a leaf out of his book and use a bit of yellow to highlight rather than your whites.
Well, that earlier when I mentioned the Pro Acryl Bright Ivory, that's actually what I've been highlighting my yellows up with because it's a really light. It's like almost an off-white, like almost like a little bit of bone. Just to go back to our days, like adding a bit of like mixing skull white and bleached bone together.
Yeah,
like it's got a nice creaminess to it, so it actually it brings up yellows really well. And if you undercoat something before you paint it yellow, it helps keep that warmth to the yellow, as opposed to like if you undercoat in like Vallejo white or Pro Acryl titanium white, it almost takes away from the yellow that you overcoat with.
Yeah, I know. I understand. You keep it in that tonal range, as it were, to look like the color rather than whitewashing it out to the whites. No, I understand. I actually struggle with painting bone. Probably
really?
For that very reason. Yeah, I've always struggled. It never looks right to me. I can never get it right.
I miss bleach bone. I really miss bleach bone. Like Ushanti bone is okay. It's not bleach bone though. Ah, crap! I lost you. Ah, you're coming back. You're back. You're back.
Someone's on the telephone again. There we go. Yeah, you were about to tell me something about bone.
Oh, I really miss bleach bone. Like Ushanti bone now, it's a nice color, but it's just not bleach bone.
No, I haven't used Shouty bone, as my other half calls it. Is it Duncan Rhodes' old painting tutorials? We used to have him on in the background, and he'd be using Ushabti bone.
Yeah.
My other half would think he was saying Shouty bone. But no, I've not tried those. I'll have to look into those. But like we said before, I don't really go into for the citadels. I don't mind the washes and the bases and the contrasts. It's just the main lines, the layers.
Yeah. I actually wanted to roll into another question.
But anyway, we're off topic again.
Oh yeah, who cares? This is fun. That's the whole point of this podcast, is just to have fun yammering on about painting. There was one big question I do want to ask you is, what advice would you give to novice painters that are just starting out to help them like avoid some of the pitfalls that you had in the past?
Don't worry about messing things up is my main advice. Just enjoy it. Just mess about. Play with everything. Don't set a standard for yourself. Just play, experiment, enjoy it. I think that is one of the main issues we have with the social medias these days, is you might set yourself an unobtainable standard and then give up. But I think, just enjoy yourself. Try everything.
Yeah. Experimentation is a big part of it. I've said this in previous podcasts. I think a lot of people get really stuck in.
You have to, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get really stuck into the, I want to say the Games Workshop ecosphere, where you have to do it like this. Venturing out and trying different things is an excellent way of developing something that you never thought you'd get. And even you've mentioned that numerous times in this episode, is, go through, experiment, test, try it, do different things.
You have to. I think it's just more enjoyable that way as well. Mm-hmm. It's fun when you try and do things, and you don't have that. If you're painting something for your army and you've already painted, say, 3 squads of Ultramarines, then you have to sort of stick to your method for the 4th squad. But if you're just painting something completely different, just go nuts. Yeah. Try something else. Try a different brand of paint. Try a different painting style. You use different contrasting colors for shades and things rather than just a darker shade. Yeah. I was watching a video earlier, someone's Emperor's Children, and they had the purple armor, but they had shaded with like a turquoise. And I thought, that looks amazing. I would never think to do that.
That's different.
Incredible.
Yeah, you have to send me. I want to see that. You have to send that to me.
Yeah, it looked really nice. It's something I would never try myself. There's another guy on Instagram, BB Miniatures, and he's painting white scars. Mm-hmm. And he does like a base coat. I'm telling you what he does. I probably have no idea how he does it. But what it looks to me like, he's base coating it with like a mint green. Mm-hmm. So the shadows are all mint green with the white, and it looks incredible. And these are things that I would just never think to try. Yeah. But these guys, these brave painters, they thought, I'm going to try this. I don't care. See what it looks like. Yeah. And it looks incredible. But yeah, honestly, have a look at those. They look really good. I tried. It came out absolutely awful.
Well, hey, at least you tried, man.
I think what happens is when you try and intimidate, when you try and imitate something, you're never going to be able to do it the way someone else did. But you can always do something you've created right, because whatever you created, make up yourself, can never be wrong. Yeah. Because you invented it.
Well, you're talking about imitation. I'm sorry. When I was a teenager, one of the guys that like I admired and looked up to, he was one of my painting teachers. Eventually, he painted up this squad of Mentor Legion that were all RTB-15 Marines. By the way, that's what started my obsession.
We don't see enough of those.
That's what started my obsession with RTB-15 Marines. But he did this squad of 5 Mentor Legion, and I remember him telling me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did that I did those like an evening or two," and he did this shading and like glazing method on his white that like I was finally it took me 15, 20 years to figure out how to do it. But the mentors that I painted up were on my Instagram are like an ode to him, because I finally figured out how to do it. But I also started putting my own spin on things. He painted up, he didn't use the original Mentor Legion logo. He actually created his own for the shoulder pad. So, that kind of gave me inspiration to do the version that I do, which is based on the Rogue Trader Mentor icon, which was the owl. But I never liked I never liked it being in yellow and orange. I thought it's like they're green and white. Why would you have yellow and orange for an icon? So I changed it. I tweaked the design a little bit and changed it over to the same greens that are on the armor. But yeah, I mean, it took me, again, 15, 20 odd years to figure out exactly how the hell he did that. And, like when
How did he do it?
Stuff I can I actually might make a tutorial video for how I paint my Mentor Legion, which damn near replicates what he did. So like it's kind of neat now comparing mine to his, because like I have surpassed his in terms of like staying clean, detail wise. Don't get me wrong, his Mentor Legions look great, but it's just like I have finally surpassed the master. Ooh. But that's a great piece of advice, is that, trying to imitate what you see. You never know what you're going to, you might not nail it the first time, the second time, the 15th time, the 20th time, but every time you try to imitate it, guarantee you're going to learn something new that you didn't expect to learn.
Mm-hmm. No, they're all drips in the bucket.
Yep.
You've learned something, and sometimes you learn what not to do.
Oh yeah,
you have to make
that mistakes too. Very much.
Yeah, you have to make mistakes. I guess that's one of the other rules. Don't be afraid to mess things up.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the only way you learn.
Well, the neat thing about like my break in painting for 12 odd years, I was running an art department for a vehicle wrap shop for 11 years, and plus running my own business. And in my own methods of working, I developed a lot of new ways of managing what I do, how I do it, how I approach things. And also we had a lot of files sent to us for printing. So I had to learn how to fix other artists' artwork. Learning how to fix things is a big thing. Not to get too deep into it, but like for like vehicle wraps, I'd have things sent to me in like Adobe InDesign format, or somebody was using a Pro Vehicle Outline template. And so I'd have to take their artwork and readapt it into Photoshop to make it actually be able to cut it up into panels, or they would. Just a lot of experience with fixing other people's artwork and making it print ready and making it workable for the application we were printing it for. And like when you learn how to fix problems, it teaches you a lot of what not to do and how to do, even approaching your own work, how to do it better.
Yeah, and all these all these skills you can apply from one thing to the other. I always find skills you learn in one thing you can bring over into something else. It's all usable.
The irony of this, I still can't paint a Gene Stealer properly right now. I've tried painting 2 Gene Stealers, one metal one.
What do you mean properly?
Well, like I had a particular way that I did them, like when I was younger, and I want to replicate that style, but I want to do it just a lot more cleanly and more my style now. And so I tried painting one of the old Rogue Trader 2nd edition plastic ones. I screwed it up, stripped it, and then I tried painting. Those old Gene Stealers are terrible, by the way. We were talking about incomplete details earlier. And then I dug out. I've got a handful of the old Rogue Trader era metal Gene Stealers when they had metal arms, and tried painting up one of those, and I just ran into the same problem. So I got to strip him again and give it another shot. So I'm just like, okay, I screwed it up this way, I screwed it up that way. Okay, not going to try these 2 ways, going to try something else now.
And what did you come up with? What was the issue? Have you figured it?
The first time around, I was trying to use shade paint like an ink wash, and I put like 3 or 4 coats of shade paint on, and it just ended up clogging up all the detail. Yeah. And then the second time around, I was trying to get a handle on using AK's paints, and AK tends to dry a lot faster than other paints, and you've really got to AK paints really, really like water. So like I've had more experience since that Gene Stealer messing around with AKs. So I've like, this time around, I'm going to try it. I've got a much better handle on it. I'll probably make it work this time.
No, are we going to see the results on Instagram? I want to see the old ones. I want to see where you came from with that.
The first one he's been stripped already. The second one I can send you pictures of. He's in my to-do box.
But yeah, I always thought Gene Stealers were quite hard to paint. On paper they're easy. They're just like an old bit of coloured skeleton with a pink head.
Yeah, they're different. I'll give them that.
There's many ways to approach it. I think the old guides, the old guides and tutorials told you to dry brush them, didn't they? Were they all dry brushed up and then the head was like layer painted? No,
the method that I'm approaching, they didn't really dry brush them. I have a bunch of pictures saved, and I'll send them to you as soon as you see them. You're like, oh, okay. I don't think they dry brushed them. They layered them.
Which ones are we talking? We talking the purple and pinks?
The purple and like blue gray.
Gene Stealer scheme.
Yeah, like here. Yeah, I'll dig out the picture and send it to you. Look. Just trying to go for that old like Rogue Trader, second edition era look, mainly like the Rogue Trader look. It's in here somewhere, but they
nailed that first Gene Stealer scheme first time, I think.
Oh, okay. I know what I'm looking for now. I think I know where it is. I'll send it to you after we're done with the show. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we had a whole bunch of fun just randomly going on about, like off topic with everything we were talking about. Who cares? It's fun. Let's roll into your Instagram. The first thing I got pulled up was your Alpha Legion?
Alpha Legion, yeah. Okay.
And lucky you, as seen in White Dwarf.
That was a shock. A nice surprise to get that email.
How did you actually go about like emailing this to Games Workshop to have it featured?
I think I took a couple of photos and sent them in. Didn't hear much, but then it must have been about a year or so later, one of the guys emailed me back and said, do you have any more photos? Because we have a Horus Heresy release coming up. We'd like to use them for that. So I took some more photos and sent them in, and they printed them.
Oh, that's cool. I had a similar thing happen in 2009. This is way back when Games Workshop was just getting into social media and starting to feature customers' models. I had sent them. I did a Saint Celestine for a painting competition here in town, and I ended up taking first place for her, and I sent them photos, and I didn't hear anything for like 2 months from them. And I wake up one morning and there they are. There's Celestine on Facebook, and they actually did like a whole article about her on their blog. And I damn near lost it. I was like, oh my God, are you serious?
Oh wow.
So I've tried digging to see if I can't find the blog post, but it's long gone.
We need to have a look.
Yeah. But in painting these guys, like I can't. Did you actually use metallics for the armor, or is that just is that just layer color?
Yeah, that was one of those experiments that we talked about earlier.
Oh, okay. So what'd you do with that?
That was I think that was airbrushed silvers, and then I used some Vallejo, heavily thinned Vallejo paints, and airbrushed over that to get the metallic color. Mm-hmm. I think they call it a candy coat, don't they, or something like that?
Yeah.
Just a technical term. But yeah, I thought, they came out okay. So I went with it. It was one of those spur of the moment things. I thought, I'm going to try that Alpha Legion scheme. We're going to try it and see what happens. And it came out good.
Yeah, I really like
looking back,
I like how bright and bold they are.
They are, yeah, they're very, very pale blue. I think nowadays people paint them more of a sort of, I don't know, more saturated maybe. Mm-hmm. But there is one huge mistake on these that you might need to spend some time on looking. But I can't unsee it. And I kick myself every time I see these because it's terrible. It's a proper schoolboy error. And once you see it, you're like, oh, I see.
All right, what'd you do?
The shoulder pads are missing a piece. Those Terminator, they have like a double layer. Mm-hmm. I forgot the middle layer, so they only just have one pad on them.
Oh, I bought a box of
misassembled.
Well, I bought a box of those at at LVO from the Frontline Gaming booth because I really like the Cataphractii armor. And I've got one like half assembled. He's sub-assembled right now, so I can paint him in pieces. But I haven't really put his shoulder pads together yet, so I had no idea.
Yeah. Don't make that mistake. It's in the instructions, but I think I just got so excited about putting those sculpted Alpha Legion pads on, and then one day I was just like, I've forgotten to put a part on.
I think you're honestly the only one who's going to nitpick that.
I know, but. But my friends know, and they laugh about it every time they see it.
They break your balls over it?
I can never forget that. That's what I've learned, and I still do it to this day. I still leave bits out in the instructions when I'm building stuff. Somehow I managed to just skip past sections in instruction manuals. I was building that night, and I built the skeleton. I've got a huge gap at the top, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I go back through the instruction manual, and there's like half a page of parts I've missed out.
Actually, one thing I really dig.
Too excited.
One thing I dig about the Cataphractii armor and like a lot of the 30K stuff is that most of the minis, they still seem to be modular.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the Primaris stuff earlier, and before I really got back into 40K, when I was just like watching stuff on YouTube and I discovered you and all that stuff. I was always wondering why everybody's models were the same. And now getting back into it, it's because most of the Space Marine stuff, or most of the 40K stuff in general, is just, it's all meant to be built one way. And if you want it to be different, you've got to cut it apart and change things. Whereas like, it just kind of blew my mind because the stuff that you and I grew up with, everything was always modular. It was meant to be customized. Everybody's armies always look different. And I think that sadly enough, I think that's really gone away, and it's kind of it kind of sucks. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of poses with modern 40K pieces where they're just super dynamic. But at the same time, it's like, no, I want to change that arm, I want to move that leg a little bit, and I want to twist the head.
No, I understand that. I mean, I think I'm in the other camp. I go against the grain with this. I actually prefer the monopose stuff nowadays.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll probably get heckled to oblivion for that. But yeah, I'm starting to prefer the monopose because even though the multi-part ones, you have all that freedom and variation, I find they still all look the same. Unless you go wild, Yeah. You do some big changes. For an example, the Mark 6 tactical guys, these guys behind me, they're all meant to have a specific arm pose, aren't they? There's only like 3 or 4 different poses. And I thought, I'm not having that. I want a bit of variation. And every single one I changed. So none of them are stock. They've all got a different pose. But when you look at them, they all look the same anyway. Like you wouldn't know. So I put all that effort in for such a minor change, and also I find that they look better. Like those Cataphractis, although those arms are, multi-part, they just look a bit too robotic. Yeah. So I prefer the monopose when they're allowed to have the slightly different poses. I do apologise, and if I'm posing in the background to go along with it.
To go with what we're talking about right now, did you paint these in sub-assembly, or did you put them all together and paint them?
Altogether, I try to steer away from sub-assemblies as much as I can nowadays. I end up like losing parts, or I forget to paint a part, and then I have to come back to it at the end. And everything I can put together, I will. I think the only thing I really leave off nowadays are like tracks on vehicles, and even then, I think, should I stick these on? Should I just put them on now and struggle later?
Oh, I'll give you credit. Like I can't do the full assemble paint thing. It drives me nuts because I like in my brain I know there's areas that like aren't where I expect them to be painting wise, and I just can't do it. Like the Ulrich Slayer that I did, I painted him completely in sub assembly. Like I put certain pieces together before I painted them, but like his helmet hand where he's holding his helmet, I didn't know how much of that was going to be seen, so I painted the entire thing. If you pull that arm off and flip it upside down, I actually painted a hole in the bottom of the helmet.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea if somebody was going to turn him upside down, you could see it.
I think that's the way, though. I think it comes back to what we were saying earlier. It depends on your goals.
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to get an army painted and done, skip the sub-assemblies, put it all together, because you're going for time. But if you're going for your golden demon entry, I think it's worth taking the extra time to do your sub-assemblies and paint those hard-to-reach areas.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, like when I click off a picture on Instagram, it jumps all the way back to the top. I do want to talk about him eventually. These guys. I saw these on your page. I thought these were absolutely phenomenal. And there you go, being Mr. Fancy and seeing a White Dwarf again.
No, there's a little story behind these.
Oh.
I can't take full credit for these. I mean, I painted them, but I did not come up with that paint scheme. This was a collaboration I did with someone on YouTube. Mel's Mini Loft was her name. And she painted some termagants in my scheme, and I painted some in her scheme.
Oh, okay.
And these, obviously hers was considerably better than mine because it's ended up in White Dwarf. So maybe I should have just done that from the get-go, but yeah.
No, I thought these guys they're really interesting. I like the contrasting colors you've got going on with, the greens of the weapons, all the green stuff on the bases, and then you've got, this kind of washed out purple, like really, really bright white purple, and then you've got the pink all over them. And it's just such a cool color combination on these guys. How long did it take you to paint them all?
I reckon that was probably, I would say, I guess 20 to 40 hours worth. I don't know. It's over the course of a couple of weeks, but you only get a couple of hours here or there, don't you? But they were done in the old factory line style, doing one phase on each one. And
okay, so you batch painted them.
Yeah.
I'm doing that.
They were good fun.
I'm doing that right now.
Again, like before.
Go ahead.
I think that's the way to go if you want to get anything done, any amount of figures done. But like we were saying earlier, this is not a scheme I would have come up with myself at all. This is an example of trying something completely different. And, I think it came out.
Batch painting 3 Blood Angel Beaky Marines right now, and it's a bit of a challenge because I'm used to doing them one by one. So I'm at that phase right now where I'm like, nothing's put together yet. I'm getting really frustrated. I finished. Go ahead.
The results don't come as fast, do they? When you're batch painting, you get that sort of lost period in the middle, and you think, I don't know if I want to carry on with this, but you have to power through it.
Yep, that's what I'm doing. It's
all worth it in the end.
I just finished 4 out of the 6 arms tonight. I got to do 2 more tomorrow. And then I got to do I've still got to do the backpacks for them. I hate doing backpacks.
Backpacks and bolters, always well known for being the most boring parts to paint on Marines. That's honestly, why we liked second edition, because we had colourful bolters, didn't we?
Yeah,
that's why I miss second edition. We had red bolters.
I miss those bolters a lot. Like painting, I did a Titus for my gal's daughter's boyfriend for Christmas. And I think that was really the first time I painted a modern bolter. And I don't like them. Like, I don't like the hand grip and like how tiny they've made all the studs on everything. And painting second edition bolters, like I love these things. I miss these. They're so easy to paint.
It's just a box with a magazine and a little tube on the end. That's
pretty much.
The occasional Aquila.
Although I do like in 30K now how they actually took the original RTB 15 bolter or RTB01 bolters and took that entire design aesthetic, updated it, and they still look the same, but like they're way cleaner.
Just a modern take on. I think they're the Umbra pattern, aren't they?
Oh, I don't know. Bolters? Somebody on Facebook recently posted. They were actually asking about second edition bolters. They're like, "What pattern is this?" And they posted a picture of all the different bolter patterns. And second edition bolter is nowhere in there.
But yeah, I thought the second edition was the Godwin pattern, which I assume was a play on Goodwin from the guy who
Jess
did them. Jess, yeah. So they took an O out of his name.
Possibly, but it had every single bolter they've released except for second edition in that diagram that the guy posted. They even had the sneaky beaky bolters in there.
Yeah. Where I need to have a look at this picture.
This isn't the fastest browser. Oh, there we go. I've discovered these. Your World Eaters. These guys are nuts. This is so cool.
Ah, okay. They're another experiment. You're picking up all the experiments, all the experimental paint jobs. There was coming out. These were sponge painted. The white on those was all done with a sponge.
Oh, really?
So that was something I wanted to try, because everyone struggles with white, don't they? White is hard, and I thought, I looked up the old. There's a little story behind this. When the Heresy first came out, what was it, like 2012?
It's that old?
I think it must be getting on 10 years now, yeah, since book 1 came out. The first edition. They had a big diorama of the World Eaters assaulting a palace, the Palace of Presiperia, or whatever they call it. They come up with these fantastic names, don't they? Anyway, it was all these World Eaters, and I thought, I really like the look of these, and there were hundreds of them. And they must have painted those, they weren't heavy metal style, but they had a nice style to them. And then Forge World came out with some old painting guides for those first legions, for the first books, and they were in it, the World Eaters. And I think they said they just literally sprayed them with white primer, put a very thin wash on, and then sponged on white, and that's it. That's all they are. Oh. And then you go back and do your details. So yeah, it's just white primer, a very thin wash, and then sponge painting some white on there. And I was like, this is really easy and it's really quick. So I love it.
And I'm assuming this is all Vallejo?
Pro Acryl. That white was Pro Acryl.
Oh, okay.
I've still got the video for that. I had to look at that the other day. All these are being done in the same way.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to replicate that. So it's all sponge painting. So yeah, that was Pro Acryl. The blues are Citadel on that, I think.
Oh, really?
And that's when I realised, I don't know if I like this formula. But I was following their painting guide. Okay. I think they said, use Cantor blue as a base and then come up to Teclis blue.
Okay.
But these guys, they're going to be Vallejo.
And what did you use for the gold on these? Because I mean that's just it really stands out.
Do you like that? Because I look back and I don't like that gold.
I think it looks really good. I think it's really bold. It's really vivid. It almost looks like a chromed gold.
That is scale 75 gold.
Oh, okay.
Don't know if you're familiar with scale 75.
I've heard of it. We don't have it here locally.
They're very different paints. I would say if you had your Vallejos and your Citadels, they would be even further over the Citadel side. They're very sort of jelly and medium-y.
Okay.
So if you don't like, I don't think you like. I can't get on with them at all. They're really matte, but the metallics are really nice. I don't know if I've got one to hand, but yeah, they're just painted gold, highlighted up a bit, and then I just put a Citadel sepia wash over the top of the gold.
Okay.
It's like a filter or a glaze, very thin, and that was it. But I look back and I thought, I don't know if I like this gold. But everyone, like you say, lots of people like it.
I think it really stands out. It goes really well with the armor because this is back when, the World Eaters were the Heresy era. So I like how everything on these guys is just very bright, bold, and vivid. And the gold is no exception. You've got the white armor, the really bright blood splatters, the really nice bright blue. I mean, it's not like a sky blue, but it's a good solid. I mean, it's like old Ultramarines almost. And I think the gold complements everything really well. Like even the reds you have on the banner, just everything is really, everything is very Grim Bright. And everything seems to be executed, to the same manner of what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe contrast. Just very bright and very easy to identify.
I think it's because you've got the red and the blue, and does that gold almost read as a yellow? So you literally have your primary color triad there. That might be why. I mean, I don't spend any time looking at these color theories and things. I can't grasp it. I don't have the intelligence for such things. But I think I might have done it by accident.
No, the whole squad is it's so easily identifiable as what you were doing with it. And, I think some the amount of the amount of blood splatters you have on there doesn't detract from the whole model. There's like I've noticed with the whole battle damage thing has become really popular, especially with like the grim dark style, the really dark grim dark style painting. And I feel like in some ways that when you start adding too much battle damage and too much grime here and there, it tends to detract from the model, and it's sometimes hard to identify exactly what you're looking at. And while you pull it up on a computer monitor or you pull it up on your phone and you're able to zoom, and I've got a 32-inch monitor on my desk that's 4K. So when I pull up a miniature, it's huge. It's like a foot tall. And when you go see those things in person, at their original size, when you have so much going on, it's difficult for the brain to really take it all in. I think you found a really good balance with exactly what you were doing with these. You've got the grime on, you've got the discoloration on the feet, which is, it's just a really light discoloration. You got a few blood splatters per model, but you can sit there and look at these and the brain is not going haywire because it's jumping all over the model.
It's very easy to overdo, isn't it? Weathering and these sorts of effects. And although overdone, I think it's probably more realistic to have all the weathering.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end of the day, I don't like the look of it. I like very, very minimal weathering, even though they should be massively heavily weathered due to the lore, and absolutely plastered with blood. I don't think it looks as good.
I like my boys looking like they just came out of the car wash.
I like clean. This could be, they might have had their armor painted the night before, and this is literally the first 5 minutes.
All right, guys, get out of here.
That's it. They're ready to roll. You never know at what point this was in the day.
I wonder how much Bondo Space Marine armor has in it.
I have no idea. But they had to be new at one point, didn't they? They don't buy their gear in already weathered.
Well, yeah, and even like that
at some point.
The Chaos Legion, they don't get new armor, so like their suits of armor. I mean, the majority of Chaos Legion, they're from the Horus Heresy, so their armor is ancient, and it's like, don't break it. You can't get new ones.
Do they go and steal Forge Worlds making new armor? Do they get new armor in that way?
Norgal Marine appears at the door of Forge World. Boom, boom, boom. I want new armor.
This is it. I think there's many, many ways to explain what you want to do. Someone shut my door for me. So.
Uh-oh. There goes your internet. Where is he? It's like the one Primaris that you did. There he is.
Ah. God, that's going back some.
Well, I was digging through your pictures trying to find your models because you don't post a ton of them, and I went back I think 2.5, 3 years worth just to find the stuff to bring up for the podcast. So you said once upon a time I painted a Primaris Marine. This one was a Death Watch. Can you tell what chapter he originally was? I have no idea.
That is a Mantis Warrior.
Okay. Oh yeah, it says right there the first comment.
You can't see the logo, can you? Which is. Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with Mantis Warriors.
No, they were a bit of a thing in Rogue Trader, and then Forge World did their rebranding of them in the Badab War books, and I think they look amazing. That yellow and green, I don't know, something about it I think looks really nice, and I keep tinkering with the idea of doing some, but you know what it's like. You keep tinkering with many, many ideas.
Yeah.
You can only ever sail one ship at a time, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, I was on the treadmill tonight at the gym, and like the way that I pass my time for cardio, it's like I usually do. It's a 20-minute session, and then there's like a 2-minute cool down. So I'll get into thinking about like what I'm painting and what I want to paint, and go through the whole process in my brain, and it tends to eat up a ton of time on the treadmill. Like tonight, I was locked into thinking about how I'm going to paint my female Magus when I get around to doing her, plus my LVO entry. And then I got into thinking what you just said. I got into thinking like, I kind of want to do more Mentor Legion. I haven't done any of those. I just got a Primaris bust from my local shop. They want me to paint up for display. And I'm actually debating on doing them as a mentor legion because nobody really knows what those are, and they just look so cool.
Do it. People need to see more of them.
Yes, very much.
And they're not out there enough, Mentor Legion.
I hate how Games Workshop changed their logo from the owl to like a griffin head or something like that. I was just like, why? It makes no sense. The Mentor Legions are like, they're like obsessed with knowledge, and like the owl is a kind of an ancient icon of knowledge. And so with this guy, did you primarily use Vallejo with him, or did you kind of mosey around playing with different paints?
No, that would have been pretty much all Vallejo, I would have thought.
Okay.
And that was just many, many layers of black with, I don't know if I added anything to the black or just used different grays.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been one of my first attempts to paint black.
Oh, okay. How old is this guy?
4, 5 years.
Oh, okay.
I guess. Yeah. I can't remember really. But yeah, it was a while ago.
Okay.
This was probably my peak painting standard. I think my standards come down a bit. That was when I had a little bit more time and I'd spend more time on each model. But yeah, I can still remember painting those little circle highlights on the knee pads and being really pleased with myself.
Talking about earlier,
I really enjoyed painting that.
Talking earlier about the things that come off the Primera's kneecaps.
Just looking at that from here, I think it would look a lot better without those.
Yeah. I don't like all the extra line work and the silly pads they have on the legs now. It's just like, can we get rid of those?
The little thigh pads. Yeah. It's just extra for the sake of extra. The same on the top of the backpack there. You've got 2 extra pads on there.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny how with the like the butt area, how much like ribbing they have on there. It's like they almost went back to the way that the RTB01 Marines look, like with they had like one armor pad and it was just like solid black or just a solid panel.
But no, it's interesting. I think a lot of newer people, when they get into the hobby, much prefer Primaris. It's interesting how this works.
Yeah.
And because they see the old ones and obviously the quality isn't as good, so they think Primaris are 100 times better. But I guess to us old people, it's a change. We don't like change. We like what we like.
Yeah.
I look at that and I think that might have been my first ever attempt at non-metallic metal on the blade.
Mm-hmm. I like the blade. I think that looks cool.
Wrong. Yeah, I think I painted that wrong.
Oh, who cares? It looks cool.
It doesn't look right to me.
I dig it. I like how dark you went with the blue. Yes.
Yeah, that was when I was I can't remember who I was talking to, and they said the key with non-metallic metal is contrast.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go very dark to very bright.
Yeah.
And then that's basically half your job done.
Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for blue. It's like one of my favorite colors on the whole color wheel. Actually, it is my favorite color on the color wheel. I like it because it's a calming, cooling color. It's a calming color. It's cool, but also like when
you like your cool colors.
Yeah, and when you do something like with what you did, going from that extremely dark blue out to almost like a sky or ice blue, it looks so cool. And then you've got the really sharp, almost pure white highlight going around various parts of the blade. It just works. I don't know why. It just does.
Blue is nice. I am in agreement there. My other half says you're always painting blue. Everything you do is blue. But no, I look around, I think, what blue have I painted? But it must have been all the Alpha Legion I was doing at the time.
Oh, I meant to ask you, do you hang on to all your stuff?
Yes, I do now. Okay. After the great purge of the teenage years taught me a lesson. It's taught me, even if you think it's going to be useless, it's got to be kept, because we can't be making that mistake again.
Yeah. So you must have
everything.
You must have accrued a lot over the years.
There is a lot. It used to be in display cases at our old house, but since we moved, it all got boxed up, and I haven't really set it all up again, so it's still all in boxes. But Yeah, there's loads. My plan is to make a pile of shame video, just so I can catalog everything I have for myself and put it all together and tidy up. But I think it's going to be a big endeavor because I've got to get into the garage and all those boxes. I keep finding boxes of things that I've forgotten I've had, and I keep thinking I'll just get that and I'll do that next. That'll be my next project.
You're like, oh bloody hell! I've been looking for this thing for 7 years. It goes in a
box. Yeah. Again, another piece of advice I would say is do not throw anything away.
No.
Any old models, just don't throw them. If you think you're done, just don't throw it away.
I wonder.
Don't sell it either.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, I wonder if like new Hammer stuff that's out now will ever be like desirable, like how it is now with old Hammer stuff.
I think it will, not for us, but for the generation that's growing up with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what we have is associated with our childhood. So these youngsters nowadays are going to associate the Primaris with their childhood. And we'll be on to like Mark 20 by then, and they'll be like, oh, these are terrible compared to the old Primaris.
Well, it only took them 30 years to come up to Mark 10, so...
Wherever we'll be. It'll probably come completely around. We'll probably go back.
There was what was I was watching it was some YouTube video. I can't remember what it was, but the guy was talking about basically how Games Workshop is. They're gonna have to kind of go back to some of the old armor and some of the old ways of doing things, like having modular minis again. But I really think I would really like to see a return to just bringing the Mark 6 and the Mark 7 helmets back for Primaris armor. Because to me, that's like helmet wise, that's what a Space Marine looks like. And at least with the new Blood Claws that they just dropped at Adepticon, they have the head variants. They have Mark 6 and Mark 7 helmets in there. And as soon as I saw them, I'm like, I'm sold. I'm buying a box of those.
You're in. They've appealed to your market demographic.
There was an argument on Reddit where it was like, they're like, oh, well, Primaris heads can't fit in Mark 7 and Mark 6 helmets. And it's like, who cares?
Yeah, that's the whole side of things. I just have I don't know what the word is. I don't give a shit, to be honest, about if the law says I can't paint my Marine with a red arm and they get really funny about it. I'm like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do. Do what you find fun. Stop trying to fit into other people's expectations of what something should be. Just do what you want to do.
When I posted my my librarian, my Rogue Trader Terminator librarian and my Rogue Trader Inquisitor, I painted them up both in the librarian's a Blood Angel, but I painted him in red armor, and then I did my Inquisitor in red armor. I had a whole bunch of people dogpiling on me, and then a load of other people actually jumped in and said, no, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. Back in the Rogue Trader era, 1, you could have chapter Inquisitors, and 2, the early versions of the librarians and chaplains were actually painted in chapter colors. It didn't come along until late Rogue Trader where they started painting them in blue and black. And I was like, thank you. I just painted them the way that I want to see them. But thank you for actually diving in with that factual information. I really appreciate it.
But again, it's the rabbit hole, isn't it? You learn these things, but you can only learn from the material you're exposed to. So until you find this old stuff that says things were different, you don't know it was different. So to these people, it looks like what you're painting is very, very wrong.
Yeah.
And then you can say, well, actually, and they're like, oh, yeah. Okay,
my thing was, it's like, these are my minis. If you don't like them, okay, go paint your own librarian. Go paint your own Inquisitor. I'm going to paint mine like Blood Angel. I'm going to paint mine as Blood Angels in red because that's how I like my Blood Angels. And obviously, I did my Ulrich Slayer in just normal chapter colors. I didn't paint him in black. And that's the way I've always done my chaplains and my librarians and stuff like that. And funny thing is, I walked away with a bronze at LVO for it. So obviously, maybe I'm doing something right. I don't know. The last model I wanted to bring up was this old knight. This is so cool.
The elderly man is my other.
I actually remember. I saw the Instagram post when you made this. I was just like, oh, that is so cool. I haven't seen one of those in years.
So this is something I'm now going to start. This is probably the first one, and it's where I'm going to try and take old models and replicate them and try and get them as close as I can to the old heavy metal style.
Yeah.
I just enjoy trying to have that old nostalgic piece, but actually have it in my hand. So what I tried to do is I looked at the old picture. It might be on the feed somewhere. There might even be a side-by-side shot if you click that right button, but I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, one posted. Oh, yeah, there you go.
There we go. So the original picture is on the right, and I thought I'll try my absolute best to do my version of that. It's a little different. Yeah, but we got close enough, I think.
I forget.
I really enjoyed it.
Is this epic scale or is this 40K?
That is epic. That's
okay.
The old epic knights. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at those.
A lot of people see this picture and they think that is hilarious, this old sculpt. I mean, it does look odd. But I think, again, that's one of the reasons I like it, because it just looks so weird.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I wish they'd never gotten rid of them. The old Orc Tin Boys. How they did the Space Marine, Eldar, Squat, and what, and I forgot what the fourth one was. Oh, a Space Marine.
Are they not a thing anymore? Have they binned them off?
I think so. Like I haven't seen any new ones. I commonly see on Facebook in the groups I'm in people painting the old ones, and I really want a sneaky beaky Orc Tin Boy because it's so great looking.
I think they look really good.
Yeah,
they're cool. They've got that charm and the character, haven't they? No, I remember this one didn't take long to paint at all because it's really small. Is it here? Might even have it here. He's here. He's really small.
Yeah, he's about the size.
You can see that.
Yeah, he's about the size of a standard Space Marine, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like just a really skinny Space Marine, like 3 colors.
Yeah.
So really quick paint job. The hardest bit was matching the old Goblin Green base color.
Oh yeah.
But I don't. If anyone has any suggestions on what paint you can use,
2 thin
out
coats
of the pot to match, is it that's a match? Is it
2 thin coats, Goblinoid green?
And that is a match. We'll try that. They sell that in the shop. We'll get some of that.
Someone
It's
part of their second wave.
Iconic. I think there's a brand called Iconic now, which apparently do a replica, but I've not tried those. So
did you ever pick up the Nostalgia 88 or Nostalgia 94 paint line?
No, I thought about it. I did a bit of research, and I asked, are these 88s like the same colors but a different formula, or are they the same colors and a very similar formula? And someone said the formula's the same. So I said, no, I don't want them.
Oh, really?
If they'd have been the exact same colors, but with a more modern formula, I would have been all over them. But no, I don't like those original paint. I find them very thin.
Yeah.
So, but the 94s I haven't tried either.
So it's supposed to be the same formula as the hex pots that are on top of my podcast.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, like, since I'm so used to modern paints now, I'd be actually curious to try them out to see what they're like, because like all my old paints had dried up, and I got all my old competition stuff I did with old Citadel paint, so I'd be very curious about just kind of jumping back in and trying out the old paints to see how they function. I've seen some painter channels where it's like younger guys trying out the paints and they have a really hard time with them. They're like, oh my God, the coverage is terrible, and they're just weird, and they're so thin, and it's not the same consistency. And it's like, yeah, that's what we grew up with. We all got used to it.
It is. But I do think here's if I was a paint company and I wanted to break into the market, these companies, they need to release a basic paint set, but in really small tester bottles.
Yeah.
So you can get a cheap paint set to test their paints without having to pay for the whole bottle. You remember those tiny little paints you used to get with like Airfix kits?
Mm-mm.
Can you remember those? They'd be like a tiny little flip top, and it would have like literally 2 or 3 mil in. You need to be able to buy sets in those tiny sets, so that way you can try the paints without having to commit to a big financial investment.
Well, Citadel's got
that's the one thing.
Citadel's got one like that, but it's I mean, it's like an entry level paint set, but the majority of the colors are all base paints, and those are not exactly the easiest things to use in the world due to how thick they are, I want to say. And I found base paints, like I have a hard time working with them with water. But
Oh, really?
AK has they have like different theme sets with like 4 or 5 per set. Like a dragon set or a knight set. My local has a load of the little starter kits or little 4 or 5 paint sample kits. I think Pro Acryl, they sell for their signature series. They sell like I think 6 colors in a box.
Yeah, I've seen those little boxes.
Yeah, I mean, Louise has got hers. I think hers it's got 6 colors. It's like a yellow, a magenta, the orange, red, a blue, and a few other things. And I think that is kind of a good way. But yeah, your idea of a micro pot. It's not a bad. That's not a bad idea at all. I think that would actually behoove them to try and do, whoever, doesn't matter what brand, but like across the spectrum, like Two Thin Coats have 12 micro pots, so you can test out various colors, and the same thing with Citadel, and the same thing with Pro Acryl.
Yeah, that way I'd be more inclined to give these brands a try.
Yeah,
if I could just buy a set which is a quarter of the price, it's never going to be a quarter of the price, is it? But just to get this smaller parts, I don't have to pay as much money.
Yeah,
and I'm more likely to try them if I can do that, I think.
Oh, you were talking about earlier the whole like doing the comparison thing, and you had another one that there we go, right here.
Nightwing.
Yeah.
that old 40k character that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, I'd never seen it until you posted. I was like, that's new.
Yeah, I think these were released within a month or two of Rogue Trader coming out.
Were these part of the Adventurer line?
These were Pirates.
Okay.
The Adventurer line was slightly different, but yeah, they threw a lot of things like that out, didn't they, around the same sort of time. I think these were Bob Ollie's Pirates.
Okay.
When they were allowed to assign a name to them. But yeah, I found him, got him off eBay cheap, I think, and I thought, this was the second one in the imitating the old style. So I even tried to replicate the background.
Yeah.
I found an old T-shirt, and I had to reduce the image quality to make sure that we got a bit of fuzziness to it. But I didn't have the man in the foreground to do either. But he looks fun to paint.
Yeah, that's a
looks
different
like a
one.
Cactus from here. Yeah, the green-headed alien. But that took a while. I made a lot of mistakes with this guy, like the gun. Sometimes my eyes seem to read color in colors which aren't there. I don't know if that makes any sense. For example, when I used to look at the space sharks, the Carcharodon space marines, they're grey, aren't they?
Yeah.
But sometimes my eye reads that as a purple grey. I don't know why. And I say to people, to me, they look a bit purple. And everyone's like, they're just grey.
Yeah.
But it's strange how I see like colours in stuff that's not there. I'm probably just losing my eyesight.
Well, some of it I think some of it has to do with the photography as well.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, my gun came out a bit blue, but other than that, I think we got quite close with this one.
Well, I actually kind of like your gun being blue versus the silver in his arms and his hands. It helps separate it out versus the original model, which just looks like it's dry brush silver.
Yeah, there was a few of us on the Discord. We were trying to work out if that face mask was grey or if it was silver, reflecting the light back. Same with the arm and the gun.
Oh, I mean,
when you get into it, you start overthinking it all, thinking, well, is that silver? Is that grey?
Well, and you're also fighting the old photography as well.
So, you're doing your best.
Yeah.
To try and replicate it.
So I am going to wrap this up for the night because it's almost 5 a.m. for me.
My word. You'll be sleeping for 2 days.
Oh, yeah. I'll probably get about 5 hours sleep, get up and eat, and go back to sleep for another couple hours. I don't have anything planned for tomorrow, fortunately. So the only thing I had planned was sit around and paint and try to get these beakies done by the weekend. But so for the final segment of the show, this is the shout-out section. Would you like to do any shout-outs, sir?
Oh, I would like to shout out yourself, of course.
Well, thank
being
you.
Such a wonderful host. Yeah, I think it's nice to have people such as yourselves who are expanding the community, as it were. But when we do particular shout outs, I would like to say my friend Conflict30K on Instagram, been a good friend of mine. I love his work, big inspiration to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I knew this was coming. So I would have had a big, long list of people to shout out. Who else do I absolutely love? It's just everyone. The whole Instagram thing, I think, has been amazing. Everyone on there is really nice. But yeah, I have to shout out my wife for putting up with it all.
She's staring at you right now, isn't she?
She luckily she's downstairs and has a friend round at the moment. So yeah, she struggles a bit with it. I think sometimes she wonders what it all is.
Mm-hmm.
But she's amazing, really. But I can't think of anyone. You've made it really hard. I've never been put on the spot like that before.
Sorry about that.
I'm trying to have a think. That's all right. That's good. When you say shout, I want to shout out like the old masters, like your Tim Prowse and your Mike McVeighs. I want to say, go and look them up. They look great. Look at their old stuff. Look where we came from. These people don't get enough recognition.
Yeah.
I don't want any of this to be forgotten.
Well, I will definitely. I'll definitely tag both of them in the comments or in the description.
We've name dropped them so many times, haven't we?
I wonder if like younger painters actually know about them.
Well, this is it. I think younger painters must know about whoever the top men are at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You get your Squid Mars, and you get your Midwinter Minis and things like that. Your top men.
Darren Latham.
So they're probably Darren Latham. There you go. There's a name. One thing I like about Darren Latham, I'm going off topic again.
Oh, that's fine.
But I find he seems to have kept whatever he does has the feel of the 90s.
Yeah. He's
kept the same theme there. It doesn't look new. It looks like it would have been something to do with the 90s. Like all his Gene Stealer cult. I think that was all him, wasn't it? I think the new Gene Stealer cult range looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was all Darren Latham. So he needs a shout out.
Okay.
For doing such great work. I'm trying to think of any. You'll have to edit out any gaps of me and my brain attempting to come up with anything.
No, I wish I could get Darren on the show, but like he contractually cannot come on the show.
Yeah, he may get fired.
Yeah, I actually asked the guy who runs the local Warhammer here in town, great dude. I asked him to come on the show, and he's like, Games Workshop employees are legally bound. They cannot. You have to sign a non-compete or not NDA. He's like, if I come on your show, I lose my store.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of. You can understand what they have to do with that.
Yeah.
It's all top end business, isn't it? They have all their contracts and everything they have to work around. It's understandable. But no, I can't think of any that I want to do off the top of my head. What I'll have to do is I'll have to send you a list.
That's
big long list to put in the comments at the bottom.
Yeah, I can do that.
Someone else who's really helped me with my painting, just to throw ideas back and forth. Goldfinch Minis, her name is, or is it Goldfinch? Goldfinch. Wonderful painter, sort of local to me, never met. But yeah, really good painting, good to bounce ideas off. She needs more, what's the word? Exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I feel she does great work. I'll come up with a list.
Okay.
And the reasons why. That'll give me something to think about when I'm working away now in the background.
So I am going to wrap this up for the night because I would like to get to bed before the sun comes up. Thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure and honor to talk to you. You were one of the main guys who really motivated me to get back into all this. So, shout out section. Thank you very much for all that you do for the Warhammer community and, for guys
anytime,
like me.
Anytime. I love it.
And,
it's been a pleasure.
I hope that, I hope whoever watches this episode is okay with, two middle-aged dudes just drolling on about the 90s and how amazing things were back then. And how
I think there's a lot of them
got.
out there. I think there must be a lot of us 40-year-olds out there.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays.
The neat thing is to see like a lot of guys coming back to the hobby, discovering them on Instagram and stuff like that, and seeing like, oh, I've been away from the hobby for 15 years, 20 years, just getting back into it. Here's a Marine I painted up, and it's just great being back. And it's just really cool to see so many people return to form and to return to something that brought them so much happiness. And you've got guys out there like you who have really kept the whole 90s thing alive and in the public eye. And I think there's a lot of people out there that really enjoy it, really respect it, and are really happy that you guys like you continue to do this stuff. I'm one of them. So
we're like a museum community, aren't we?
Yeah, and I mean there's so much heritage in all this stuff that it's a lot like the car stuff I'm into. There's so much heritage behind it, and in modern times a lot of that heritage gets lost or forgotten about, but there's guys like you that work really hard to keep it alive. And from being a fan of yours, all I got to say is thank you for doing what you do, because it's like really cool to see all this stuff pop up in my feed, things I've forgotten about, these ancient white dwarf articles, ancient white dwarf pictures, and it just brings a giant wave of nostalgia and really hits you in the feels like, this is great. Actually, one thing I wanted to comment to you was, when I got back into this and I discovered that the Oldhammer community is still alive and well and now massive. Like when I left painting, it really didn't exist. And now like over that 12-year gap, it's like, it's very much taken on a life of its own, and it's very big. And it was literally like walking back into the 90s again. So thank you for keeping this stuff alive. Anytime.
I love it. We need more. I'm looking forward to seeing more from everyone.
Cool.
Like you said, I get many messages of people saying, I've come across your page, I've seen some videos, and it's inspired me to dig out my old things from the attic. Mm-hmm. So there's still people onboarding when they come across it. There's many, many more to yet rediscover it, I should say, when they're going to come back.
And I've got my gal and I were trying to we've actually the house I'm in now. I bought my house in 2016, but my gal and I are talking about buying a house together soon. And once we do, we actually want to, once everything gets moved in and set up, we actually want to take a trip over to visit in the UK. So, I'll definitely.
You'll love it.
I'll definitely give you a buzz when I get over there. Oh, the last time I was there I was like 15 or 16, so that was in the 90s. But I'll definitely give you a buzz when I come over, because like all the people that I really like talking to in the UK, it's like, I'm here. I'm going to be at Warhammer World at this date, this time. I expect to see all of you at Bugman's.
It's not that far. A couple of hours drive for me.
Okay.
And it's always an excuse to go and buy something nice, because you can't go all that way and not buy something nice.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
So definitely.
I'm giving all my money to my woman and be like, here, don't let me spend anything. Let me spend 20 quid.
I don't think you'll get much for that.
No, you get a paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for coming on. It was an absolute blast.
Thank you very much.
And you're absolutely welcome. And as I said in my last podcast, I promise I'm going to start working on the Space Wolves tutorial. But until the next podcast, I will talk to you guys in a bit. I hope you guys have a good night and you get more sleep than I do.